here. No political correctness and no wokeism. You're listening to Underground USA.
Thanks for downloading, listening, and sharing. My name is Frank Salvato, and you're spending a few moments in Underground USA. Well, the second presidential soundbite festival, presidential debate, is in the books. And I can say, without hesitation, that the ABC News-sponsored debate was the worst executed debate in presidential debate history. In fact, the only superlative that can be tossed at it is this. The moderators were so bad, so transparently and overtly in the tank for Kamala Harris, that they should lose their jobs even at their left-leaning network. First and foremost, we really shouldn't be shocked that the result of the so-called debate, and there wasn't any actual debate that took place. It was just a series of lies and unsubstantiated charges from the left, unchallenged by Harris's adoring moderators. The result was predetermined, pre-slanted towards Harris. ABC and ABC News are owned by the Disney Corporation, which, let's face it, hates the right and conservatism with a seething arrogance only the most woke can appreciate. But to add insult to pre-scripted injury, as the New York Times reported, Dana Walden, a senior Disney executive whose portfolio includes ABC News, is one of Vice President Kamala Harris's extraordinary friends. Walden and Harris have known each other since 1994, while their husbands, Matt Walden and Doug, the potential first male, while they have known each other since the 1980s. That the Trump team either missed that important reality or recognized it and agreed to the venue anyway can only be categorized as a blunder of epic proportions. In a world devoid of overconfidence and ego, a blunder like that would cost the campaign manager their job. So, if Trump is to hold true to his claim that when someone fucks up, he fires them, heads should roll over that singular point. But that doesn't let ABC News and the ABC moderators, if we can seriously call them that, off the hook for their blatant and obvious bias in favor of Kamala Harris. On that point, I agree with Megyn Kelly. Kelly said about all there is to say on her podcast after the Soundbite Festival.
I'm disgusted. I'm ashamed of those moderators at ABC News. They did exactly what their bosses wanted them to do. The person who runs ABC News is a close personal friend of Kamala Harris that is responsible for Kamala Harris and her husband meeting. And they did Dana Walden's bidding tonight. It was 3 against 1 on that debate stage this evening. Hi, everyone. I'm Megyn Kelly, a special program tonight for you reacting to the debate. It was 3 against 1. It's very easy to look like you know what you're doing when both moderators are entirely on your side. Trump did the best he could under the circumstances, but it really was like 3 fighters in the ring pummeling one opponent. And Trump tried to take them all on. He did fine. He did as best as he could. He was thrown a few times to the point where he was unnecessarily defensive and he was getting angry. And so was I. Were you? This was a mistake to trust ABC News with this debate. The Republicans must learn from this mistake. The same way the Democrats never agree to do anything with moderators they don't entirely trust. This should be the last time the Republicans ever do this, because those 2 moderators tried to sink Donald Trump tonight. The numerous fact checks on what he said and none on what she said. None. I don't remember a single fact check of anything she said, and she lied repeatedly. She just got away with it. In the moderator's eyes, that was Donald Trump's job to fact check her. That's correct. Except you didn't employ that same tactic when it came to Trump. And you accused him of lying even when it was your opinion that he lied. When Trump tried to say that his comment that he lost 2020 by a whisker was him being sarcastic, David Muir actually injected saying, I didn't hear sarcasm. Who gives a shit what you heard? Who died and left you political analyst in chief? You're supposed to be the objective news anchor of World News Tonight. That's a comment you make to your significant other, David. Not on the debates. It didn't sound like that to me. Shut up. That is inappropriate. It's not for you to make that call. Leave it up to Kamala Harris. Leave it up to people like me who will play the soundbite and let the audience decide. But you were out of line, and they did it to him over and over and over again. And the worst piece of all of this is the obvious tactic by ABC News, which was as follows. Mr. Trump, you said something incredibly controversial and terrible. Let me remind you of what it was. Do you have any regrets or thoughts on how terrible you were? Trump answers, Vice President Harris, how bad is Trump? And then she'd answer. It happened over and over again. That was the format. Mr. Trump, you're a piece of shit. Kamala Harris, isn't he a shit? Thank you. It was incredible. And then anything Trump said, fact check, fact check, fact check. And their fact checks were full of shit. I'm swearing even more than normal right now because I'm mad. I'm angry. I'm angry at them, at ABC, at my industry that I want nothing to do with. And I've never been happier to be outside and be able to say how I truly feel. And yes, even with some colorful words, because that's what the situation calls for. They're trying to steal this election. They're openly working to sink him.
And a clip that automatically followed Kelly's on X by a black woman who calls herself Insurrection Barbie and uses the handle @defiantly free, and defiantly is spelled DEFIYANTLY. God help me, I love her for how she lets it all hang out on this clip. Had this to say, and I warn you, there is some strong language in use.
The presidential debate last night was the biggest load of bullshit that I have seen in a very, very, very long time. I think it's pretty damn obvious why Kamala Harris insisted upon having the debate on ABC. Because those motherfuckers were biased as fuck. And it wasn't enough for her to have the debate on a biased news channel with the assistance of two fucking moderators. This unscrupulous heifer still had to find a fucking way to cheat. Look at her earring. Look at that shit. Does this shit look familiar? Yeah, it's an audio earring. So not only was it 3 against 1 on a biased channel, but she also had to have the assistance of an earpiece. So someone was telling her what the fuck to say. And for the record, the migrants, the Haitian migrants, are in fact eating the animals. So let's not pretend that Trump is saying some crazy ass shit. And for a party that claims to be so fucking woke, the media is manipulating your ass and you're fucking falling for it. When the migrants land on your front doorstep, don't complain. When groceries and rent get so high that you can't afford to shelter or feed your family, don't complain. Don't say shit. This is what you fucking wanted. You want to fight for a woman's right to choose, but you can't even fucking define what the fuck a woman is. At this point, everybody is pretty decided. I don't think there's many undecided voters out there. So let's take this motherfucking thing to the goddamn polls. Because I got a feeling there's going to be a lot of pissed off Kamala supporters come November.
The Trump team, to hopefully include a new, more effective and aggressive campaign strategy, and the RNC must hold the ABC News moderator's bias up as the reason why there will be no third debate. That announcement just hit Truth Social from Trump. They should dominate the narrative by exempling ABC News' moderators as a destructive force in presidential and election politics, and blaze the path forward by challenging Harris to engaging in a variety of one-on-one interviews with interviewers who actually possess the intellectual credentials to occupy the seat, maybe even credentialed interviewers preferred by their opponents. I'd love to see Kamala Harris answer questions from Victor Davis Hanson, or Mark Levin, or even Alan Dershowitz. In fact, if Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are sincere about representing all Americans if elected, and I think I just threw up a little bit in my mouth right there, they will start with interviews with Fox News, Fox Business, Newsmax, the Epoch Times, and Sky News. Now, I wouldn't hold my breath on that, however, as the main goal of David Plouffe's campaign strategy is to avoid any real questions or having to make any solid issue statements at all. That's the only way Harris can win, given that she's a fucking Marxist. Does that sound extreme? Yes, it does. But what is the recourse when a dishonest politician in Kamala Harris, backed by a campaign team that has proven it holds win-at-all-costs philosophy to include non-fidelity to the truth, and that would be Obama's Chicago political machine? What's the recourse when they vomit lies that have been debunked by every news outlet on the planet repeatedly because their goal target is the moronic demographic that is the uninformed voter? Sean Connery's character in The Untouchables had it right when he spoke about the Chicago way.
You said you wanted to know how to get Capone. Do you really want to get him? You see what I'm saying? What are you prepared to do?
Everything within the law.
And then what are you prepared to do? If you open the ball on these people, Mr. Nash, you must be prepared to go all the way. Because they won't give up the fight until one of you is dead.
I want to get Capone. I don't know how to get him.
Want to get Capone? Here's how you get him. He pulls a knife, you pull a gun. He sends one of yours to the hospital, you send one of his to the morgue. That's the Chicago way. And that's how you get Capone. Now, do you want to do that? Are you ready to do that?
It's no different in politics. You must fight the Chicago way. If you don't, you lose, and that's inevitable. So, Mr. Trump, I beg you to listen to an old Chicago guy who has won more than he's lost and won, as you would say, bigly. Your team needs to get its shit together and fast. Retake the narrative. Define Harris with an aggressive national campaign that is impossible to avoid consuming and target not your base. Hear that again. Not your base, but the and underinformed voters everywhere they exist. Stop repeating preferred talking points and never again talk about rally crowd size. No one gives a shit. And start talking exclusively about the issues that the and underinformed voters believe are the issues. Always end any future interview question with a question about Harris's record that applies to that issue. And for the love of baby Jesus, act presidential above everything else. Presidents don't let Marxist gnats like Kamala Harris or her sycophant interviewers get under their skin. They execute a majestic eye roll and say things like, "Interesting, I would have expected that from someone who knew nothing about that issue." Or, "I expected someone in your position to be able to think for themselves, not regurgitate talking points." Or, "If you're in the South, bless your heart." And there you go again. You need to guard against the angry response to the Marxists' poking. You need to be above that when the and underinformed voters are watching. Time is now short, and the Marxist sympathizers at ABC Disney did a great disservice to the American people and did significant damage to your campaign advantage. It's time to stow the ego and overconfidence and fight like you're 20 points behind in the polls which means executing a flawless campaign messaging strategy. To the people, the voters who believe our republic is in serious peril should Harris win, I say this. Do not depend on the RNC to help the Trump campaign. It is up to us to craft strong messages and execute our own campaigns to reach the and underinformed voters. And that means getting way outside our comfort zones and bringing the message, the facts, the truth, and the consequences to the places the and underinformed voters consume their information. They are dark and seedy, disingenuous places much of the time, but it's time to get our hands dirty. It's time to stop believing that any cavalry is coming. It's time to stop fucking around. It's go time. When we come back, our segment on America's Third Watch, broadcast nationally from our flagship station, WGUL AM 860 and FM 93.7 in Tampa, Florida.
You're listening to Underground USA.
Our First Amendment right to free speech is under attack by woke activists and politicians. Wokeism seeks to suppress opinions and ideas that are deemed offensive, insensitive, or problematic, thereby stifling the free exchange of ideas and the pursuit of truth. It emphasizes social justice, identity politics, political correctness, and the regulation of language, and relies on euphemisms and ambiguous language to create the illusion of consensus, thus avoiding confrontation with opposing viewpoints. Wokeism is antithetical to free speech because it stifles the free exchange of ideas and the pursuit of truth. This is in direct opposition to the principles of free speech. Wokeism is an ideological cancer shopped by those who want to control you. This November, we have an opportunity to render wokeness to the ash heap of history. Vote smart. Vote against wokeness and those who would use it to control you.
And, you know, we have to stay woke. Like, everybody needs to be woke. And you can talk about if you're the wokest or woker, but just stay more woke than less woke.
Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. Whenever they're asked a question about their proposed policies, they never give a straight answer. In fact, when they do give an answer, they take both sides of the issue.
In 2019, you said, quote, "There is no question I'm in favor of banning fracking." Do you still want to ban fracking?
No, and I made that clear on the debate stage in 2020, that I would not ban fracking. As vice president, I did not ban fracking. As president, I will not ban fracking.
In 2019, I believe, at a town hall, you said you were asked, would you commit to implementing a federal ban on fracking on your first day in office? And you said, there's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. So it changed in that campaign?
In 2020, I made very clear where I stand. We are in 2024, and I've not changed that position, nor will I going forward. I kept my word, and I will keep my word.
How are the voters supposed to know what they actually stand for?
Let me be very clear. I am unequivocal and unwavering in my commitment to Israel's defense and its ability to defend itself. And in equal measure, the Palestinians have security and self-determination and dignity.
Maybe that's the point.
Next question, please.
That's it? That's it? Okay.
My values have not changed.
News, insight, passion. AM 930, The Answer.
All right, and of course, Frank Silvato from undergroundusa.com, and of course, also author of the book Nullification. And Frank, first off, give us your reaction here to the debate. You know, this has been a very hot topic all program long this morning. We've got a lot of great calls and a lot of great direct messages about it. But what was your takeaway from this?
No, I'm a little surprised at the shock that ABC was decidedly one-sided. It's owned by Disney. You know, ABC, the American Broadcasting Company, ABC is owned by Disney, and Disney is completely woke. So they're not going to like people like Donald Trump. They've demonstrated that every single day, going head-to-head with Ron DeSantis down in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so to expect that the moderators from ABC would be fair and balanced it's kind of naive. We knew going in that they were going to be slanted to the left. One thing I did see is that they seldom asked both candidates the same question.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in a debate, you're supposed to put out a topic, and the two people in the debate are supposed to give pro and cons, or at least two different visions of what they believe that issue, the important parts of that issue are. You don't just ask one question and you go, and then turn to the other person and ask something completely different. That's not a debate.
You're right. No, you're exactly right. And it was much more of a, here, Kamala, tell us about your wonderful vision of the future. And Donald Trump, what about you? And you said something horrible thing or whatever. Yeah, it kind of came off as being a little biased.
They fact-checked him 7 times, and a few times their fact-checks were completely wrong. And so much so that people on social media were not only fact-checking the fact-checkers in real time, but able to drop links to first source material showing it. I know one tweet by Megyn Kelly came out, said she's not for confiscating guns. She's on film saying that she believes in a mandatory buyback program. Well, what the hell is that?
Yeah. I remember when that was coming up in the debate. I thought this was the perfect opportunity for the moderators to say, but yes, you have said you support a mandatory buyback program, which is a confiscation, basically, and they just let it go, and let her get away with this zinger. Well, me and Tim Walz, we all have guns, and we're not taking anybody's guns away. I thought that was ridiculous.
Yeah, and that was another thing that evidenced the fact that they were biased in their moderation. That's a joke of a word, but they didn't force any questions for Kamala Harris. If she didn't answer a question, which she did that a lot, she would be asked a question and completely go off topic immediately, never answering the question. They never followed up saying, well, you need to answer the question. Or when she made a false statement, they didn't say, well, like with the guns. Whoa. You're on film saying you support mandatory buybacks. But with Trump, and I remember it was the Mail, and I don't even want to remember their names because they were that awful. They were awful moderators. Mm-hmm. He bullied him into answering a question, following up 4 times. Not correcting Kamala Harris on Project 2025, not correcting Kamala Harris on Charlottesville. These are 2 things that have openly been debunked in just about every media outlet, including the New York Times and the ABC News. And these moderators did not correct Kamala Harris. They didn't fact check her once.
Well, that's right. So, that's because the mission was she's got to look good.
Well, she came off, if anything. Now, did Donald Trump come off looking good? He did better than a lot of people thought he would. I believe he missed multiple opportunities for kill shots.
Mm-hmm.
He could have put her away just with questions about her record on several issues that were brought up, and he failed to do that because he allowed Kamala Harris to get under his skin. You could see he was visibly irritated at her. And I think that was the game plan all along for Kamala's team was get under Trump's skin and get him repeating stuff. The one question that really got under Trump's skin was the crowd question, which is irrelevant to everybody who's going to the ballot box. Nobody gives a damn about the size of Trump's crowds because it doesn't affect the economy, border security, anything that's important to the American people. It's a question about a non-issue.
You know, Frank, I noticed right at the beginning, Kamala crossed over the stage to go and do this big power maneuver to go shake Trump's hand and say, Kamala Harris, hello, this kind of thing. I'm thinking, okay, that was rehearsed about 1,000 times, I'm sure.
Well, and that has everything to do with the prep for her debate. Everything was rehearsed.
Yep.
And you could tell. There was one network had a body language expert on, and that's the primary comment that she had. Every expression, every hand gesture, every body movement, all her body language she was over-rehearsed. And that's why you heard the taglines. The only time she ever gave specifics was when she started to talk about her job proposal. $50,000 for this, $6,000 for that. Mm-hmm. She said that 4 times. Another failure by the moderators. Well, that's wonderful, Kamala, but how are you going to pay for it?
Yep.
How are you going to pay for these for the $6,000 for every child? It's a child credit, so every parent's go get that. And how are you going to pay for $50,000 for business startups? And in a lot of places, it costs way too much to start a business now, and people just aren't. So how are you going to pay for all this? You got to get costs down first. Come on, how are you going to do? No follow-up questions.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, and you're right. How do you pay for that? And also, I think Trump landed a pretty good blow when he was talking about the student loans and saying other people aren't getting, the free money, and the look on her face was kind of like, okay, don't even go there. We're doing this specifically to win votes. That's it.
And that was another observation that was made in real time on social media, and it kept going for a while afterwards. Her facial expressions and her body language came off incredibly condescending.
Yep.
Arrogant and condescending, which brings me to the larger point that needs to be made about this. She achieved something last night that very few people thought could be achievable. She became the most unlikable Democrat female presidential candidate in American history.
And that's putting one over on Hillary Clinton. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, she eclipsed Hillary Clinton where unlikability is concerned. She came off as insincere, unserious, and wholly unlikable. And when we have elections couched by the media, jockeyed by the media, that have now become overglorified junior high school popularity contests, likability is very important. It's to a critical mind, it's not. To people who are informed on the issues, it's not. But to the all-coveted, uninformed voter, probably the stupidest demographic with the right to vote. It's important. Orange Man Bad worked. Yeah. I don't like Donald Trump. I literally unfriended people I've known for 20 years last night because they couldn't stop with, oh, the Orange Cheeto didn't do this, and how come they're not fact checking the Orange Man? I've had it with the name calling. I've had it with I can call Donald Trump rude because he uses these names, but I can do it with just as much invective, even more. When it's based on nothing but your emotions, I'm done with you. I don't care how long I've known you. Done. If you can't debate on the merits and the facts, and if you're too stupid to understand that groceries cost on average almost $150 more a cart now than 4 years ago, then you're a waste of air. But Kamala Harris last night expected you to listen to her emotions. This is what I will do. The one punch, and you want to talk about what the punch that Trump landed, he saved to the very end, and I wish he would have been hammering on it the whole time, asking questions at the end of his allotted segments to put her on the ropes. Why haven't you done any of this?
Right.
Why haven't you done this?
And that is such a good question, because she keeps saying, well, we got to clean up Trump's mess. She keeps doing the blame game, but that is absolutely ridiculous. There's no merit to that, but again, doesn't matter as long as she keeps saying it over and over.
Yeah, he had her on the border, and that's all you do. Oh, why don't you do it now? He finally said it once he got irritated enough. But if he would have said it very calmly in the very first segment when he brought it to immigration, you keep saying these great ideas about immigration. Why haven't you done any? You've been in there for 3.5 years. Why haven't you executed any of these brilliant ideas?
Yeah.
That's the biggest point here. You should have hammered on that at the end of every single issue that was ever brought up. Well, that actually might work, Kamal. How come you haven't instituted any of them? Are you actually in control? Are you and Joe actually in control, or is the government being run by a shadow group of people? Right. I don't know. Let's wave to your campaign manager, David Pluff, back there. Say hi to Barack, David.
No kidding. Well, of course, also the part of that answer is, well, we got to tell people what they want to hear to make us seem nice and make us look like we're the change agents to fool people to elect us to office.
Well, and that's exactly what Bernie Sanders said Sunday.
Yep.
Well, she didn't really change anything. She didn't change. She said she didn't change. She's just saying things to get elected. Oh, really, Bernie? Thanks. You've just validated everything we thought. She's not going to change her mindset about anything at all. So let's go back to her beginning, which brings up another good point that Trump brought up, and he should have gone a step further. Her father is a Marxist, an expert of Marxism. He's got a PhD, and that's what he teaches at Stanford. She's not a middle class kid, as she claimed in her very first answer. She's upper middle class at the very least. She is the daughter of 2 PhDs, which falls into maybe 0.001% of a demographic. Only 0.001% have 2 PhDs as parents. She left after kindergarten from Oakland and was brought up all of her formidable years in an upper middle class suburb in Canada.
Yep.
So this idea that she's this kid who was discriminated against because she was Indian, getting on a bus and going to school for all those years in Oakland. She grew up in Berkeley.
Well, when she was getting into that, I thought this was her version of Scranton Joe. That's Absolutely. You hit that one right on the head. But that's what she needs to do to be likable. If people were to know the truth about her, there'd be no way that she could be likable. And when you couple that with her arrogant, caustic personality, that's a losing hand for when you have to captivate likability, and she failed that regardless. The hand on the chin thing, that's a body language maneuver that's condescending. Mm-hmm.
And she did it 4 times last night.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. And because she knew she was going to be on split screen, she couldn't say, I'm speaking. So I think they came up with a visual thing she could do to be condescending like that.
Well, as it turns out, in several points in this debate last night, the mic was left on. So I guess she could have said, I'm speaking.
You're right.
ABC violated its own rules in the very first segment. It took them 30 minutes. And all of a sudden, her mic was left on. She was talking over Trump.
Yep.
I thought they were supposed to be turned off. Why wasn't that the case? And before I sign off, I want to wish a very happy and healthy 89th birthday to my mother, Joan. who over the years instilled in me a love of family and country and served as my political mentor in my formative years. You can't learn what I learned about politics, political reality, and campaign tactics in a school, and I thank her for that education. Happy birthday, Mom. I love you. Be sure to get on over to undergroundusa.com, subscribe to the podcast and to the Substack. Come straight into your email inbox. No censors get their hands on it. It's a direct line from us to you. And that is going to be intensely important as the censorship machine ramps up as we get towards November. And remember to talk politics and religion with your family, friends, colleagues, and acquaintances. That's where we find out that we all have more in common than we have in difference, and that our society is center-right, not center-left, and absolutely not Marxist. And it's time we expose the Marxists for who they are. People that hate our Constitution, hate our freedom, hate our free speech, and that they are willing to do anything to destroy all of it, just for power and control. We are the last line of defense. You're listening to Underground USA. My name is Frank Salvato. We'll be right back after this.